Discussion. I am Jane Queeby. I am the chair of the Institute for Family Business, and I'm pretty passionate about supporting and sustaining family businesses because I just believe very strongly that they are not only the backbone of our economy, but the lifeblood of the Valley. And we are committed to doing these events about every 4 to 6 weeks. We offer them at no charge to the community and to members, but obviously a community benefit. And we've been having a lot of success with our panel discussions lately, and so we're really happy to be able to bring you one of those today. But before I go any further, I'd like to introduce the Dean of the School of Business, Dr. Robert Harper, and just to say a few words. The mic isn't really. Oh, is it working now? Okay.
So hi, everybody. I'm Bob Harper. I'm the Dean in the Craig School of Business. My background is an accounting professor, and I miss that I don't get to teach anymore. But I do get to host events like this. The Craig School of Business is delighted to have the Institute for Family Business be a part of our school here at Fresno State, and we really have been fortunate in the last couple of years in that all of the activities, or I should say most of the activities anyway, for the Institute are volunteer run by a very effective board headed thanks to Jane, and then with some of the staff support here in the School of Business. But it's the volunteer board that really does carry the meat of making this happen and be such a great thing for you. So there are several members here, so if you're on the if you're a board member, why don't you raise your hand, please? Yeah. So if you get a chance afterwards in socializing, thank them for their efforts. They do a great deal. We're really proud of the Institute for Family Business because contributing to economic development is one of the major goals for the Fresno State and the Craig School of Business, and certainly supporting family businesses is a big part of economic development. In keeping with the theme of the day, though, I'm going to pass the baton back to Jane.
Oh, you're so clever. So today's topic, as Bob mentioned, is passing the baton / taking the reins. This is actually a two-part session. And today, Neil Koenig is going to be leading us. He is a business consultant. He has a ton of experience working with family businesses and has been involved with and served with the Institute for Family Business for a number of years over the course of his professional career. He does a great job of helping us sort of develop these topics and then plug in the right people to help share learnings, right? Because that's really what it's all about. We know that succession is a significant issue for family businesses. When you look at the fact that only 13% of businesses across the country that are family owned and operated make it to the third generation, the numbers that are working against family businesses having succession plans is staggering. And so we're really looking forward to getting some insights today, led by Noel, and I will let you introduce the panel.
Well, hi, everybody. Glad you're here. It's my pleasure, sincerely, to introduce you to 4 exceptional young men who have accepted the responsibility of their family's businesses. The baton was passed to these guys. Their story is unique, and yet it has similar themes about the generational switch. 2 of them work for family businesses that are in their 3rd generation, founded by their grandfathers, expanded and grown and well, that's enough to say. Expanded and grown is the same 2 words. By the 2nd generation, big enough and promising enough for another generation, and these 2 young men accept the baton there. 2 of them, their fathers started the business here in the Valley on guts, street smarts, and a dogged determinism with a work ethic to choke an ox, and they built a business. And those 2 businesses are flourishing to the point where it is worth going on for another generation. As was said, well, let me just say that they represent 4 critical parts of the economy of the area. We have construction, ag exports, we've got distribution, and also the construction industry. They also represent, as was said here, part of the American economy. Just to add some statistics to what Jane just got done saying, 50% of all the people that went to work this morning went to work in small businesses. And 46% of the economic output of the United States comes from small businesses. And fully a third of all exports around the world coming from the United States come from small businesses. And so these young men represent a very promising future, not just for their employees, but for the economy of our valley. And this is happening all the time because there's such a transfer of wealth. So just think about it. A lot of vital businesses being run by young men and women who are in their 30s and 40s. They also represent a successful transfer of the baton, which is seldom easy. The reason you're meeting the fathers next month is because, as one of them said, good, I'll get a chance to tell the rest of the story. And so you'll get a chance to hear that. I want to introduce to you, we'll start over here. This is Ago Dermenjian on the end. Ago accepts responsibility for Durco Foods. Durco exports almonds, pistachios, and Oregon hazelnuts to 50-some different countries in the world, with offices in Beijing, Hong Kong, and New Delhi, right? Three places where they have offices in addition to the mothership here in Fresno. And in Dubai as well, yeah. But no matter how you describe it, Ago's career is just nuts, and he gets that kind of comment all the time. Ryan Morgenstern. Ryan's dad just sat down. Hi, Herb. Ryan is responsible for Canon Sleep Products, primarily a mattress manufacturer. Mattresses of the most economic level, the medium level, and then luxurious ones. The luxurious ones, the ones that you wrap in a great big bag and zip it, cover it with sheets, mattress pads, you never see it again, including under the 16 decorative pillows your wife insists on having on a bed. But they make these mattresses in a modern big facility in southwest Fresno, and their mattresses are sold under private label around the state. The next young man is Charlie McMurray. Charlie's namesake is his grandfather. He's part of the Charles McMurray Company. Charles McMurray Company is a distributor of cabinetry hardware. They have made their fame and their growth by promising customers anywhere in California that an order made by 5 p.m. will be delivered the next day. Not just from their parent company here in Fresno near the airport, but also from a distribution center that they've established in Sacramento. So then my friend Preston Cross. Cross is from the Four C's Company. Four C's, the Crosses. Dale and Carol sitting right over there. Their son Graydon, and here's the baby of the family, the fourth C, Preston. They're a sheet metal company. If you see metal roofs in the area, eaves and flashings and gutters, you look into these new modern restaurants that we have where the kitchen is exposed and you see thousands of square feet of bent stainless. These guys do that. So the world needs nutritious products. Everybody needs a mattress. Hinges and drawers ought to open, for crying out loud, and we need a roof over our head and places to go eat. So this is a wonderful representation of our valley. So I'm going to sit down and get the ball rolling with you guys. And you know I'm going to ask this first of all. All four of you worked somewhere else before you joined your family business on a full-time basis. So I'd like to know where you worked before And if that was any benefit whatsoever to you now joining the family business. And it'll be fun to pick on Preston first because he's got really an unusual story.
So before I came into the family business, I was a race car mechanic, and I traveled the country working on race cars full time, and sleeping in hotels and traveling 9 to 10 months out of the year, and then down to Australia in the wintertime. And so what that did for me, for one, it helped with the work ethic because it was a 7-day-a-week job. We were either traveling or racing all the time. We were in charge of the maintenance and upkeep on the car, so some of those mechanics tie into what we do today with the sheet metal and with being organized. And also, if we screwed up on the car, it could cost somebody their life. And so the maintenance and the attention to detail is something that I think has helped me today. Some of the crews that we were living with 24/7, and so trying to manage people today, I would say that probably helped with dealing with people and with getting better with people.
Ago, yours is very different than this one, obviously.
I don't own a tool. Don't know how to use a tool. My previous life was in a law firm in Los Angeles. I was a litigator down there, and I graduated law school in the mid-'90s when California was in recession, and there weren't a lot of jobs going around. So I was lucky to get a job and realized I had to work really hard to keep it. But the dynamics of the law firms, as some of you may know in LA, are kind of tough. These are big places. This was a relatively small firm, I think, with about 85 or 90 attorneys. And if you didn't work well, management would fire you. And if you worked well, senior associates and junior partners would try to derail you because they would see you as a threat. So I think what I learned was I didn't like that kind of fear culture, and I've tried to implement a more positive culture in my business, in our business at Derco. So,
From race car mechanic to an attorney. Charlie, you work somewhere else.
Yeah, my dad wouldn't hire me unless I had 5 years of work experience in an MBA. So I went out and worked for an electrical distribution company called CED. It was a big nationwide company, had 5,000 employees. So I got to learn a lot about what it was like to work for a big company. So it made me appreciate a lot more about what we had at our family company where I'd worked in high school and growing up. Also taught me that managing people is important, and I got to learn and screw things up in somebody else's business before bringing that to my own business. That was helpful.
And you wandered around.
Yeah, I think I'm maybe the least traditional. Dropped out of Fresno City College and happened to be in the early 90s as well, right in the tech boom. And so I always had a thirst for learning, so taught myself how to do computer programming, and somebody gave me a shot and started doing some e-commerce websites. And then every time a new business opportunity came up, my employer would say, "Hey, do you think we could do this?" And I'd say, "Sure, why not?" And so we'd build a new website, or we'd go into different data storage hardware or different things. So it was this constant learning, and then transitioned down to a company in Orange County where I was running the company as the CTO, all the tech side. And then ended up in San Diego after a tour around the world, working at a startup there as a software company on the director of sales. So I started off in a hole as a programmer and worked all the way through all the different pipes and ended up on the front lines. And so what that gave me was a thirst for lifelong learning, because I was able to take something and put it in and apply it and see results. What it also gave me was a really unique perspective in technology and how we've applied that to our company. We've had an ERP system for a long time, but a lot of it was garbage in, garbage out. So really that was one of the first things that I kind of took my arms around, of saying, okay, let's make sure that we got the right data processes in there. The other thing it did was expose me to a lot of wild and crazy ideas in the tech industry. I mean, people are big dreamers, blue sky, and so that's been kind of a fun way to think about a very old traditional industry in new and exciting ways, and some of the fun conferences I went to.
Well, while you're talking, why did you come back to the family business? Started by your grandfather and then expanded and modernized by your dad, and you left all that excitement?
So my dad and I had a conversation quite a few years ago about his idea about teaching us about the business as we were kids. And he said, I always wanted to give you the dirtiest jobs possible. So we got to sweep the floors and we got to do just the dirtiest things. And that taught me his idea was he wanted to teach me that I wanted to work in an office or I wanted to do good. But for me, it taught me I never wanted to be involved in the business. It was dirty, it was stinky, it was not fun. But that's when I was, 9. And so life changes. And my father did an amazing job of taking kind of a dirty mattress rebuilder is what we were at the time. I mean, taking the stinky things from the dump and turning those into things we could sell. Took that and turned us into a new bedding company and then built this beautiful facility in Fresno. And over the years and conversations, we've talked about it. And in my late 30s, the time was right where Dad was thinking about what's next for him, and I was looking at what he built and where he took it and saying, I really have a desire to build on what he did and continue that on. So that was really why I came back to something that wasn't stinky and dirty anymore and was an amazing opportunity.
Charlie, you had an invite to come back provided you paid your dues for 5 years and got that MBA.
That's right.
Were you looking forward to coming back, or did you like the big world of distribution electronic products?
No, I was really looking forward to coming back and working somewhere else for a while. It gave me a real appreciation for our business and just working for myself. I just have a lot more freedom now. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, but I also have a lot of freedom, and it affords our family a lot of flexibility that I didn't have when I was working for somebody else. So that was really appealing, and the business is successful, is doing really well. So that's actually been a bit of a challenge too, is coming into a business and how do I improve on something that's already doing great. We're thriving. It was well run before I came in, so just got to keep pushing the pedal down and trying to make it better.
Yeah, I think you've got a very difficult job. That business of yours is just so successful and so smooth running. And now you have the opportunity to make it smoother.
We're trying.
Yeah, good luck. So did you just get sick of Australia and the race car tracks and said, man, I'm coming home? Dad, give me a job, please. I want to work with you.
I think I was in a little town in Nebraska when my dad called and asked if at the end of the season I would think about coming home and helping out at the family business. And at the time, I had been on the road for a couple years, and it was wearing on me. And I had fun and got to see a lot of the different things around the country, and I was ready to come home. At the time, it was probably just a job and continue to bend sheet metal, and since then it's turned into trying to take what my parents started and really grow the family business and give a lot of opportunities to a lot of the team members we have, looking around at Christmas parties and different things, knowing that we have the responsibility to keep the people here employed and keep them in a great company and keep them growing and keep allowing them to put food on the table for their family is a big reason why we keep doing it.
Yeah. Did he have to twist your arm at all, or did all it took was that one phone call?
I think it probably took the one phone call. I was ready to be off the road.
Ready to come home. Yeah. Ago, why did you leave the tough world of big city law?
It wasn't as hard a decision as I thought it would be. I had the skill sets to be a pretty good litigator, a sharp tongue, a quick mind, and do a lot of damage. And it just doesn't, I wasn't happy with who I was becoming. I made a few people cry in depositions and realized this wasn't for me. I didn't like the culture. It was a lot of backstabbing and a lot of politics. And so one day I was in my crappy, expensive apartment in Burbank and talking to my dad and said, man, I hate my job. And he said, I could use the help. My mom was ill at the time, and he was stretched really, really thin. And, I never knew what he did growing up. I'd go to the office to do my papers on his computer. I would hear FOB, CIF, pay your bill, and never really knew what any of that meant. And it was a great decision. He invited me to join. I think I accepted, and it's been the best thing I ever did.
Oh, good. Well, what all did you have to learn then? You coming in from scratch then, huh?
Yeah, I had to learn it all. I mean, our business is, so just quickly, because it's kind of different.
Please.
We don't make or pack anything, but we take title to the goods that we ship. So we buy in bulk, 50-pound cartons or 2,200-pound bins, but we buy that. We don't broker it. So we're the customer here in the United States, and we take care of all the documentation and the export and the payment and the political risk. So when you guys wake up in the morning and you see something has happened overseas, you think, oh, that's a shame. I think, oh, that's a shame. Do I have any containers going there? Because usually it doesn't end well. I was just telling Ryan and Charlie a few minutes ago that some of you may have heard of the Hanjin bankruptcy. Well, that's the 7th largest carrier in the world, and we have $3 million of almonds on those ships right now, all over the world. So that's our reality here right on Shaw Avenue. You'd never think that our little office is on fire right now. I had to learn everything. So I learned, we were small. When I joined, we were 6 people. So I did data entry, documentation, logistics, learned it all. And slowly we grew. But it really wasn't until I got into the trading side of things, several years into it, that I really kind of got the confidence to step up in the business.
Describe the trading. What is that? Because you're buying stuff.
Yeah, we're a high volume, low margin business. So you have to develop the courage to make decisions relatively quickly on big dollar amounts. And we ship to 55 countries. Now we have offices all over that help us with our sales efforts. At the time, we didn't, but so we have to. We get a lot of information every morning when we come into the office from our overseas teams, and we've been talking to growers and processors here in the States, so we kind of know what the markets are doing, and then we try to match supply and demand to each other. The advantage of being a trading firm and not being a broker is that if we see a vein, we can take some incremental positions for our own. We can go long or we can go short. But those are all things that come with time and experience and feel, and you have to get used to losing money because, we lose money, and sometimes, you don't realize we're signing on contracts. In a day, we'll do $10 million of business, and that's not unusual at all. But when you stop and think about it, you get stomach aches. So it takes time to build up that immunity to be able to do that. And
yeah, now that you brought up the contracts, just for a second, what I have learned is that people don't honor some of these contracts, do they?
no.
And you're an attorney, so what do you do?
It's very frustrating. Last year, some of you who live in the area here know that almond and walnut prices came down 50, 60%. And the people that sell to us, who had started to take us for granted as almond prices went to $5 and had been a 10-year bull run, said, why are we giving these guys 2%? They don't do anything. Well, they realized what we do last year when they had a C corporation in Fresno they can come and get their checks from. We had just one guy in the UAE walked on $1 million, 47 loads he left afloat, and he ran to Pakistan. So quick aside, sorry, but this is funny. So what happens in Dubai is they run. Because unless you're an Emirati, you can live there for 5 generations and you're not considered to be an Emirati ever. You can never be a citizen of Dubai. And so what happens is when these guys get upside down Thursday night, they leave the Ferrari in the airport, take the flight to Pakistan or India, and they're gone. And that's what this guy did. Last year was a bloodbath for a lot of people in our business. Some went out of business. But they default, and there's no such thing as international law. People always say international law. It's the contract. It's the law of the forum that you have to apply. So we did the best we could. We have lawyers all over the world, and we recover where we can. But most of the time in international litigation, it's a feel-good judgment you get, because by the time you get your judgment and you go to attach assets, they're gone.
Wow.
I have some good stories afterwards if anybody wants to ask me about a Brazilian guy who crashed his Sukhoi fighter jet and his widow stiffed us. So that's a good story, but for another time.
Okay, good. 2 months from now, you have that story. So you come back and the place is all new and it's clean and you don't have to do old mattresses anymore. What did you have to learn? Because you'd worked there as a 9-year-old.
Well, it was a different company back then. It's funny. You think that mattresses are really pretty simple, right? You stack up some foam and some springs, and you put a cover on it, and you ship it out the door. And then somebody's got to sleep on it and not return it. It's deceivingly simple when you think about a mattress. It's just layers of stuff, and if you layer enough together, they make sense. So what I really had to get my mind around was the targeted feels of mattresses, making sure that we had mattresses that were consistent across a range, across a price category. And as you said, we do kind of soup to nuts with pricing. So how do you build a mattress that's going to be valuable and valid at $99 twin size bed that's going into some place that you're selling a bunch of, but also build a bed that's $5,000 at retail, and make sure that everywhere in between you really kind of got to hit every price point, $99, $199, $299, and then you have to build it efficiently. So all these things, the first couple years were, Dad let me hit my head up against the wall a couple of times, and sometimes he said you shouldn't do that, and I did, and it was great success. And sometimes he said you shouldn't do that, and I did, and it was less than great success. But all those lessons added up to really learning how the inner workings of our business is. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. So, Charlie, you knew a little bit about Charles McMurray Distribution Company before you left for 5 years and got your MBA. What did you have to learn when you got back? In 5 years, things could have changed.
Yeah, that's for sure. But our business is even more simple on the surface, too. We're a distributor, so it's sometimes even hard for people to understand what value we add. So we buy products from manufacturers in bulk and then distribute them out in smaller quantities to small manufacturers. So we don't actually change the products that we sell in any way. So we have to try hard to add value. So the value that we add is by being extremely convenient to our customers and being accurate and getting the product to them on time, having a lot of inventory so that they know that they can call us and get the products that they want. So I came in and I did, like a lot of these guys did every job. I swept the floors, I drove the truck, I worked on our receiving department, worked on our shipping department, worked at our will call counter, our customer service team, and just kind of worked my way through the whole company. And as I continued to grow and learn more about the business, opportunities just started to open up. So I ended up taking a job as a salesperson in the Fresno area that had opened up, and then took our customer service manager job when it opened up, and then our sales manager job when it opened up. So fortunately, I didn't have to push anybody out of any role for me to take those jobs. It just kind of happened naturally. And then our CEO retired, and I was able to step into that role after being with the company for 9 years. So everything just kind of worked out for me. But I felt like I was in the right position at the right time too, and I worked hard to make sure that I was prepared to take over our family business. So from going to work for CED right out of college to getting my MBA and then working through all the jobs, I feel like I'd been training for 15 years to take over my family's business when I finally took over.
Yeah. It's easy to picture mattresses or containers full of nuts from this, but I can't picture distributing hinges and drawer pulls. Give us a little more about what your company distributes.
Sure. Yeah, we sell to cabinet manufacturers, so our customers are custom cabinet makers. So I see a home builder in the back of the room over here. So, hi Ryan. He'd hire a drywall guy, a plumber, a roofer, and a cabinet guy to build the cabinets for his house. So my customer is the cabinet guy, and we sell them hinges and drawer slides and sandpaper, glue, knobs and pulls, pretty much anything they need other than wood. Everything we sell is small cubage, so we don't deliver anything on our own trucks, or very little. We ship most of the products that we sell via common carrier, so it's small items, hinges. You can fit 250 of them in a real small little box. So, but they might cost $5 a piece, and we sell 250 of them in a little box. So it's an expensive box, but that's how we make it. That's how we make it work, and we sell all over the state. So we've got 18 salespeople from Redding down to San Diego, and
how many little boxes a day do you ship out?
Yesterday we shipped 1,400.
1,400 by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we get the order by 5 o'clock, it ships the same day. So our warehouse team stays late. So they were there till 7:30 last night.
Wow. And it's all levels. Is it a a hinge and a doorknob and all that stuff for a track house, but also for hotels and bars and all that?
Yeah, so we sell every level. So we've got really inexpensive stuff that you'd find at a cabinet in a Motel 6. There's real cheap little white slides to the $10 million mansion would have the real nice soft close units and these beautiful chrome devices under the cabinet. So yeah, we've got every different level.
Huh. Just fascinating. You said you came back from Nebraska and started in bending metal. What else did you have to learn?
Well, I didn't think I had to learn much.
That's
yes,
confidence.
But
I
no,
think he's the only one that answered honestly, by the way.
the business definitely had changed. I worked there as a kid, but I had to learn basically the commercial construction side of things and manufacturing, and I started in our shop sweeping floors and bending metal, and then got the chance to run our fabrication shop and start growing that a little bit. We used to fabricate only for our own construction jobs, and so I got to take the fabrication shop and start going out looking for other customers and growing that side of the business. And that was something, learning the new technology we had. When I left, we had hand brakes and mostly manual stuff, and when I came back, we had a lot of automated and a lot of technology already for a sheet metal shop. And so learning to work with the guys, for one. My dad started me and my brother out by the crappiest job, I guess you could say. And so me coming back into the company after being gone for a while, I had a lot of I had a lot to prove, I guess, and I took that very seriously. I didn't want the job because of my last name, and so I worked hard to get to know the people and to get to know what I was doing and to try to be a good leader.
Huh. Did you come back thinking someday the baton's going to be passed to me?
At the time, probably not. I came back just to run the sheet metal shop and didn't look that far ahead. But as I was there for a couple of years, saw where we were going and what my parents had built for me and my brother, and knew that we had a great foundation and that we could really expand on it. And so over the years, I think I came to loving what I do and wanting to grow and wanting to expand.
So did you go to your dad and say, well, Dad, I'm ready to succeed you now? Not.
I still haven't done that.
Well, he's sitting right there. You would, right?
No, I think it happened slowly, and it happened. Some of it happened by accident. Some of it happened on purpose. I think some of the things that I slowly took over were things maybe that he just didn't like to do. He quickly handed over the meeting with the insurance agent or something like that. But when it came to buying equipment or bidding big jobs or going out and looking at big projects, that took a lot longer to hand over because that was some of the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and he is a real expert at that, to be sure.
still is, and he can still outwork almost anybody we have.
Yeah, but he doesn't like office work. So you inherited all of that, that's for sure. So you knew when Dad said, you're going to go work somewhere else and you're going to get an MBA before I'm going to rehire you, you knew you were on the track to become the next McMurray.
Yeah, I felt like I wanted to do that. I wasn't sure, so it was a good experience for me to go out and work somewhere else first. So I really wanted to do that. I wouldn't have gone to work even if my dad would have let me right out of college, because I just needed to work somewhere else and prove that I could support myself and on my own and not need Daddy's help in order to make it in the world. So it was a big confidence builder for me to work 5 years on my own and just have my own life outside of the business.
Yeah, well, when Terry, your top guy, retired, you were sure that you were going to be able to do the job? Were you confident, and was your dad confident in you also?
I'm still not sure I'm going to be able to do the job. Let's be honest. I think we all have our doubts on different days, and thinking that I've met a lot of CEOs in the last 10 years, and I don't know anybody that thinks they know everything. In fact, the more time I spend in the business, the less I think I know. It's kind of funny how that works out. But I had an advantage before taking over my family business because we were professionally managed before I took over. So we had a general manager or CEO who'd been with us for 17 years. So my dad had already stepped out of running our business on a day-to-day basis, and a gentleman named Terry had done a great job of running our business day-to-day for 17 years. So my dad had already stepped out of that the primary contact role. He's more like the chairman of the board and still is. It doesn't want to have anything to do with the day-to-day operations, which is great because he kind of stays out of the way, but he can still maintain his ultimate veto power if he wants to. So it works out good for everybody.
Yeah, well,
I didn't want to give that up yet, so, and I understand.
And what would you say his confidence in you is?
I think it's very high. I don't think he would have turned the business over to me unless he was confident in my ability. Sometimes I think he's more confident in me than I am in myself, which is he's a good supporter of me.
Yeah, that's neat to hear. When you came back, did you think you'd succeed your dad, Herb?
Honestly, that's the only reason I came back.
Whoa, man on a mission here.
And I don't mean that. I don't mean that flippantly. So when, and the short version of the story of why we even started talking, my dad and I had talked a number of times over the year about, you want to come back and join the family business. And my wife, sitting in the audience here, Anissa, and I had a great life living on the coast. I was working in tech. She's a marine biologist. It's hard to do marine biology work in Fresno. Just do the math.
Will you tell us the story how you convinced her to move here?
That's for another panel, Neil. I'm sorry. And we were in Las Vegas when Anissa and I were in San Diego. I was working for a marketing company and went to the Las Vegas market, which is a biannual market for our industry. And we were at dinner with my dad and a buddy of his and my wife. And my dad's buddy takes me aside, and he had a little bit too much to drink, and I'll spare you the language. But he pulls me aside and he says, "Ryan, what the blankety blank are you doing? You need to get back to Fresno and help your dad. He's out there all on his own. He doesn't have a plan. There's nobody to take over for him, and he's tired. You got to get over there." All right, Gary. Sure. Okay. Have another margarita and we'll talk another time. But that kind of got me to thinking, is any of that coming from my dad? Did he share that with him but not with me? Was there more emotion than I was aware of in it? And Anissa and I were pretty happy in San Diego. So Dad and I started talking with the idea that if I'm, if he really does want me to come back, the reason that I would come back is not just for a job. I wasn't looking for a job at the time, but to come back and be part of and ultimately take over the family business. So we actually engaged a succession planner in San Diego, which everything started out pretty good, and then we had our plant manager murdered before I had transitioned in, and Dad said one day, "Ryan, I need you here now. All this planning and stuff aside, we'll get to it when we have time to get to it, but you've got to be in Fresno because I need your help." And so we've kind of been stutter-stepping along the way, not quite as planned as I'd like, but we're getting there.
Yeah. And were you confident then a year or so ago when I don't know, was it 2 years, your dad said, "Okay, the baton's passed." Were you confident then that you had your mind around this, and did he have confidence in you?
Kind of as Charlie said, and no joke, it depends on the day. Some days I think I got the bull by the tail, and some day I think the bull's got me by the tail. I'm pretty comfortable with the team that I put together. I'm a really people person. It's been drilled into my head, don't be the smartest guy in the room, and if you are, move to another room where you're not. So I've built a good team in the company. I've got Dad as an advisor. He knows where all the bodies are buried, knows things that I'm never going to know. And we built a team of people who know great areas of it. So am I confident in leading people? Absolutely. Yeah, that I'm pretty good at. Am I the best mattress builder? I'm working on it. Am I a decent marketer? Yeah. But really for me, it's about the people. And I have a high level of confidence. Dad's confidence in me, I think it's pretty good. He just spent a week in Santa Cruz and enjoyed himself, and we talked a couple of times, and he was in a good mood, which meant that I think I was doing okay.
Well, he was vacationing and having margaritas.
That he can vacation, I think, is a testament that I'm doing
that's
okay.
Right. Yeah. Boy, talk about well-earned, that's for sure. I go when you came from the Southland, did you know you were going to run this for another generation?
Well, first, just a quick comment. Anissa, my wife Nairi's here, and she's the USC School of Film grad, and also wonders why she's here sometimes. But this is a great community, and I think when you get to know the people and you realize how good life can be here, it's easy. But yes, I kind of did. You know my dad, Leon. Some of you know him. I mean, he's kind of a different person. He's the kindest person in every room he's always in. Our dynamic has been totally different. He's been trying to make me the president for the last 10 years, and I really haven't had any desire to take the job. So I officially became the president last year after 19 years at the business. But the way we run our business, really, it's just a title. I was kind of running the daily operation for the past 6, 7, 8 years already, and we have great people, so it's a team effort. We have logistics experts, we have documentation experts, we have a great CFO. I'm also, like Ryan, I think one of my skills is that I'm able to hire people who are better than me. That's one of the best things I do, and I have absolutely no problem with that. I mean, we are an egoless place. In fact, when we hire people, we say, you leave your ego at the door. Sam Guile sitting there helps us a lot with our hiring, and we take our time when we hire. It's the most important job I have by far. We take weeks to hire. We take people to lunch. We take them to dinner. We let them drop their guard because they're all going to say the same thing the first hour or two in a room. So we really get to know them. We see how they handle their liquor. We see how they handle everything about them. And because we want good human beings. And once you do that, once you hire good human beings, they manage themselves. You don't have to manage them. So for me, the transition has been really just a different, we don't even put titles on cards. So it's been really nothing for me. And I say that with a lot of respect, but it was a non-event. Our transition was a non-event.
Incidentally, about your employees, how many different languages are spoken in your company?
10. I mean, he speaks 7. I speak 5. So, but we cover everything: Chinese, Arabic, English, French, Armenian, Korean, a little German, Hindi, several dialects of Hindi, several dialects of Mandarin and Cantonese. So we have the world covered, and we have to. And that's something that people really care about. When you go and you make an effort, most of the languages I speak are broken, but you make an effort and people love it, and it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yeah. I was really impressed that at some point in this last 19 years, you decided to become fluent in Chinese.
Fluent in Chinese is a is a gross exaggeration of my Chinese, but it's functional Chinese. It's fluently wrong, but when they see a 6'4" guy with a big nose and big eyebrows speak Chinese, they freak out. So it goes. They appreciate the effort a lot. They appreciate the effort a lot, and that's helped open some doors and helped create some relationships. Because in China, it's all about guanxi, which is that web of relations, and it's really who you know, not what you know in China. And when you can speak a little bit, it goes a long way.
Isn't the word "derko" significant in the Chinese language?
Yes, it happened that way. We actually learned from our failures, and we were the first U.S. company to have a wholly owned Chinese distribution company in China in 1999. I think we started. We lost our butt, but we lost our butt for all the wrong reasons. We actually, all the things we thought were going to be hard, we did perfectly well, and all the things we thought were going to be easy were a nightmare. Like importing legally into China is a nightmare because nobody does it. Everything goes through Hong Kong and Haiphong. So we found out as we were designing our retail logo, we had the first stand-up resealable bag in China, and De Erko means fits your mouth. So it was great for nuts, and we were doing a brand of retail, walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, prunes, Turkish
walnuts,
apricots.
I forgot to say that.
So it worked out great.
Good.
There you go.
Good things should happen to good people. That's neat. I'd like to know what your relationship is with your dads. what authority he still retains for himself, what authority you have, how the two of you work. Got some suggestions here or stories?
There's the passing of the baton, as we're talking about, was it wasn't really clear when the baton was passed, like what the authorities were. I mean, I've been doing a lot of stuff, and some things without permission, and some asking for forgiveness even during that time. But there was one change, and I don't even know, Dad may be hearing this for the first time, but there was, and he may have noticed it, and we just didn't talk about it. Prior to having the title, a lot of conversations that we had were, Dad, I really think we should do this, or what do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? I'm really for this. Can I do it? When I had asked permission. But after I got the title, there was a subtle change that I kind of took on myself and seemed to work well for both of us on most of the day-to-day stuff, which was, hey, Dad, this is what I'm doing. Do you have any feedback before I do it? So it was kind of a subtle change, but we've had a really good communication about what's going on in the business most of the time. And I didn't want that communication to change because he always has good feedback. Even if it's just watch out for this that might happen, and not so much on the positive side, or hey, watch out for this good thing when that happens too. But he always has good feedback, and I didn't want to turn that spigot off. So that's been I think a really good indicator for the last couple of years. And now the day-to-day is on my shoulders. But really, when it comes to the big financial decisions, if we're going to spend $500,000 on a new piece of equipment, or we're going to take out a credit line, anything that really is a fundamental financial thing, that's one that I will go back to that old idea of, hey, I think this is a good idea. I think we should do this, but that I'm still letting that decision lie with him. He's still 100% owner in that. That's his, it's his right. That's his honor and duty to do that. And until things, I don't think things will change there for a while.
No. And he earned it, for crying out loud. Yeah. Preston, how about you and your dad? What authority does he have, and what do you have there?
Well, I would say he still has quite a bit of veto power. I think he trusts me and our team with the day-to-day decisions and even some of the larger decisions. We bid projects all the time that are over $1 million, and those are high-risk projects. But he trusts the team that we have, and I still go to him for advice all the time on tricky projects. He's done physically worked on more projects probably than I've ever seen, and so anything that's complicated, I still go to him on a weekly basis. And then if there's a big expenditure or something, we might even have a family meeting about it and discuss. But it's definitely, I think, was a slow transition over time, and it wasn't one day we just walked in and it happened. But he still makes little decisions and still runs some jobs and still is the key component in a lot of our older customers and key customers. And we still definitely like to have him around. He still helps make decisions even on hiring people and who would be a good fit. And some of the times that I've suggested things that I want to do that he's told me might not be such a good idea that I decided we need to do anyway, have come back to bite me. So I still welcome his advice.
Haven't you won one?
Maybe.
Maybe one. Charlie, your dad's a chairman of the board.
Yeah, it's very similar experiences to Ryan and Preston over here. My dad and I are great friends, and he's one of my best friends actually. So it's really neat to work with him. But he's done a good job of keeping distance as well, and distance from work. So he really lets myself and my management team run our business on a daily basis. So he doesn't stick his nose in the middle of things very often, and when he does, he has a pretty strong opinion about it, and he says, we're not doing that. And when he says that, we don't do that. But that probably happens once or twice a year. And every once in a while we make a decision, and he says, why did you do that? And I said, well, I thought that's what you would want us to do. And he says, well, no, that's not what I wanted you to do. Well, I'm sorry you weren't here. So we did the best we could and asked for forgiveness later and hopefully learned from it for the next time around. So he's done a really good job of keeping his distance, but he still wants to be involved in the major decisions, kind of like Ryan's dad, where if we're going to buy a truck or hire somebody in a critical position, he wants to be involved in the hiring process, and he wants to approve our expansion efforts. But the little day-to-day stuff, the 1,000 decisions we make every day, don't want to have anything to do with those. He just trusts us and lets us run with it and stays out of the way. So it works out well in the business, and it also works out well in our personal lives, because it allows us to remain close, and we take vacations together, we exercise together, we eat lunch together a lot of days. So it's a really good relationship.
That's just really wonderful. You're the only family business up here that has a board of directors, and it's a formal board of directors. It's not some advisory outfit or anything. Well, what does your board contribute to the success of the company?
The board is a great place for me to go, and we're still learning. I'm still learning even how to use a board, because our board is relatively new, but it's been a good place for me to go for advice and say, here's an issue that I'm struggling with as a company, and here's the direction that I'm planning on taking the business. I'd like your input. We have 3 ex-CEOs of different companies on our board, and then my brother, my dad, and I. So we've got 3 people outside of our company and 3 family members that are all owners of the company. And it's great to go to that team, mostly the other CEOs, and say, is this a good idea? Am I headed in the right direction here, or what am I missing? Give me some other ideas on how to proceed. So I've really enjoyed that advice. I talk to a board member at least once a week. I think today I've talked with 2 of my board members about various issues, and they're consultants for us, and they love being in the business. They love having something to do with our business, so we value them, so I think they see value in what they're doing.
Neat. That's neat. Ago?
Yeah. In our case, I think, Dad has set the culture, and he is kind of the guru in the office. And they say that when Dad walks on the carpet, he doesn't leave footprints. And he's there. We have a very high risk business. It's kind of like those TV shows you watch that Aaron Sorkin directs, with a lot of that cutting back and forth. And it really is kind of that way at times. And so we need a calm presence. I'm a pretty type A guy, and I have a kind heart, but sometimes not a kind mouth, because my brain works faster than my mouth. Or my mouth, I don't know.
No, the other way around.
The other way around. And so Dad is really good at sitting at the conference table on days where, something bad has happened, which is, it happens often for us. We do, 100 million pounds all over the world, and, it's an ag product, and it's going to crazy countries that most of you may not be able to find very quickly on a map. So it gets tough for us. And he's a calming presence. He never gets mad at people when they make mistakes. He's a great teacher, and that is what I enjoy the most, because it allows me to run the process. And when someone has to go and, they sit on his lap and he'll stroke their hair and give them a lollipop, and they love that. And he does that.
That's
really,
setting
really
the
well.
culture, huh?
He does. He's a very, very kind man, and I think that helps me slow down and kind of realize that the days that he's not there, I catch myself being a totally different leader, because I am no longer able to take the liberties sometimes that I take, knowing that, Leon is sitting at the table, and I need to step up and not be the contrarian, because a lot of times, we push each other around our conference table. We have morning meetings every day to go over the overnight communications, because remember, our business never stops. So when we wake up to 100, 150 emails and something that has happened overseas. A bombing, a port closure, some kind of political turmoil that always impacts us one way or another. So our morning meetings are kind of the place where our management team identifies the priorities, and then we kind of allocate our assets, our human assets, to deal with those. So
Just as a point of interest, do you have to deal with corruption?
We don't participate because we're audited, and so we have to keep our noses clean. But do we go to corrupt places? Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the number of tree nuts or really any food stuff that goes to Hong Kong, they're not eating it there. It's all Gray Channel into China. China's the world's largest Gray Channel food market, whether it's through Hong Kong or through the port of Haiphong in Vietnam. We work with North Africa where, those are corrupt places because people aren't paid enough to live. So that creates corruption. And we have to deal with all those things. And so we have a very clear saying, and it was, I don't know if some of you may know Don Nelson from Midland Tractor. We had a CEO group that used to meet there, and Don said, we have a very clear family rule. If you don't mind it being on the front page of the Fresno Bee, go ahead and do it. So we just can't take those risks. But absolutely, we go to very corrupt places where very corrupt things happen.
Wow. All right. The baton's been passed. You guys are responsible. What have been your biggest challenges?
I'll start. For me, it's keeping the culture, because overseas offices, we have, great people there, but maintaining a culture when people aren't with you every day is very hard. And it's very important to us. We've reached a point in our family business now, 38 years, that we don't worry so much about commercial things putting us out of business. What I worry about is complacency. We've had a 10-year bull run in ag where a monkey could make money if they were in ag. And so that makes people complacent. They expect their bonus. They expect certain things to happen. And we've seen very, very hard days. We've seen the 1999 devaluation of the Brazilian real, where our receivables doubled overnight in that country. We've seen the 2005 crash, the 2008 crash, and now the 2015 crash. We've lived through a lot of political and economic turmoil. So for me, I think we know how to solve those problems, and we may have profitable years or not so profitable years, but what worries me is losing the culture and having the people over in our overseas office representing us the way, the Durco way. And that's a very clear culture. We have a culture like Nordstrom's where they say, if you don't belong, you get expelled like a virus. And we are that way. We know if an employee isn't going to work out within a few weeks of having hired them if we've made a mistake. So we have an annual retreat where we bring everybody in from all over the world, and we spend a week with them. We do the team building, but that's just not enough. So I'm started to visit a lot more. I have 2 young girls, and I don't want to travel as much, but I have no choice, because I think you need to feel the pulse in person and all the different cultures. We do a weekly Skype session now where we have 5 offices up on the Skype, and we make sure that they talk to each other. We also make our offers transparent. That was a very difficult thing for us to decide, is if we're offering something to China and we're offering something to Dubai, we don't want our offices to compete. We need to explain to them that the key is to sell the product. It doesn't matter who sells it, because we recognize that some markets are hot and others are not. But that was a big deal for us, to make that process completely transparent to the team and ensure that we offer China first, and we tell Li Ji in Beijing is, hey, look, you're 16 hours ahead, Dubai's 10 hours ahead. If you can't get it done within 6 or 7 hours of your time, release it to Jay and see if Jay can work it. So those were innovations that we put in place. But for me, by far and away, the biggest concern is the deterioration of culture.
Ryan, your biggest challenge now that you've got stuff on your shoulders?
To no fault of our own, I think the last 5 years of our business has just been one big challenge. And just a couple of highlights. The starting gun was our plant manager being murdered. Shortly after that, we had a trucking accident with 7 plaintiffs, that one fatality in it, and a number of people that were actually, this Thursday is the last chapter of that, and we've made it through that. We've been battling that for 3 years. And this is a great challenge, but we've doubled our company size by almost all metrics in the last 4 years. in a time just coming out of the recession, as we've seen cash come down as sales are going up, and trying to balance all these things. So if we look at the last 5 years, it's just been nonstop, and it's been kind of fun for me. I'm young and vital, and I think Dad's got a couple more gray hairs than he had when we started, and some of them are because of all this. To point at one, I don't know that there's one. It's just been a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, and we've seen we're starting to see maybe a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel that we don't think is a train.
Yeah. Challenges that are now yours?
I'm with Ago that maintaining our culture has been a big challenge for us. We have a really good culture, a group of people that's just obsessed with serving our customers and just doing a good job as a company. But we're growing, and we've been growing, so we're not a small company anymore. When I was a kid working there, we were 30 or 40 people, so when we had a company event, everybody would come. And now we're over 100 people, and it's a lot harder to make it feel like a family business still. We're becoming more of a mid-sized, we're still a small business by every way of measurement, but we're getting bigger now, and maintaining that family business feel is important to us, but it's a lot harder now. The other challenge for me has really been managing people I didn't hire. Now, they're great people, but in my experience, the people that I hire, that I have a hand in hiring, are just much easier to manage. I think I look at them differently, they look at me differently, and it's a lot harder to turn somebody that I didn't hire into thinking the way that I want them to think. And if I'm part of that hiring process, before we hire them, I make sure they think like I think. And so we've had a few struggles there getting people to think like me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you were gone when your dad first called me. The first assignment he gave me was, I want to improve the esprit de corps here, and I want you to interview every single employee we've got. Yeah. And I interviewed 88 people, and I had 100 and I don't know how many pages of notes. And he expected that to be condensed down because he wanted to make sure there was an esprit de corps in this company. So this cultural thing, I mean, even your grandparents were part of that, weren't they?
Yeah, my grandma, up until the week before she died, she would hand out everybody's paychecks to them. So she was 89 years old, and she'd go out in the warehouse, and she would have a check, and she'd walk up and say, "Preston, here's your check. Thank you for working for me." And she was just a beautiful lady, and everybody appreciated that. That really helped with the family culture. Now everybody's got direct deposit, so it just feels a little awkward to hand out a check because it doesn't have the same meaning that it used to have.
But she went around giving birthday gifts as well, right?
Yeah, everybody got a handwritten card for their birthday with a $50 bill in it, and we still do that. But it just had more meaning when it came from my grandma.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Plus, she wrote sweeter things than my dad did.
Yeah, your dad's a man of few words.
He's a man of few words, yes.
Preston, congratulations. You took over the company in 2008. What were you thinking during the Great Recession?
It was definitely tough. We had a lot of tough years, but I would say my biggest challenge was taking what my parents had started, which was a family culture, and trying to grow the company, the pure number of people, and still trying to make it feel like a family-owned company. And still, to this day, my mom has a birthday once a month for everybody that had a birthday in that month. She signs cards and sends them out every month to everybody. We do certain things. We go camping together. We go to football games together.
Wait a minute. Camping together? Your entire company goes camping?
We just got back from Washon 2 weeks ago. We had 70 people go camping with us up there, tent camping at Washon. And so the challenge is to keep the family feel, but grow and be professional at the same time. And so there's people that have worked with us for 15 or 20 years that can remember the day that they had a young child at home and couldn't afford to fix their air conditioner, and my dad would go over on the weekend and fix it for them. And so I think he set the bar pretty high as far as culture and as far as caring for the people. And another challenge is, and he likes to razz me about this, is he still drives a truck with a ladder rack, and I don't. And so the challenge of not having all the years of experience physically doing everything, but still being able to know what I'm talking about and earn the respect from the different contractors and stuff was definitely a challenge.
Well, you also had a large challenge, and we won't go into any details on it, but it was tough for you to fire the first person that you had to fire in your life, right?
Well, like Charlie said, hiring and firing people that you have not been a part of their life and in the company has been tough. And so getting rid of somebody that had been there a long time was a huge challenge for us, but it also was a springboard going forward on our culture and who we are today. And so there's still quite a few people left that my dad was a part of hiring. A lot of them are great people, but it's definitely interesting managing them and helping them grow, and pushing them to grow the culture and grow what we're doing. But I couldn't do it without the people we have, and we have an unbelievable group, and everybody loves to come to work every day, and so it's a fun place to be.
Can I jump in for just a second? I want
Please.
to comment on the firing part, because I think we haven't talked about that, and that's the most painful experience, I think, for people who care, and yet it's so important also because the people that need to go because they bring down a culture and they bring down their coworkers, and usually, and this is kind of cliche and trite, but I think it's true, they end up happier eventually, if not immediately, but eventually they find a better fit, and it's one of the hardest things to do. I agonize over it. I mean, just you wouldn't believe how I agonize over it, because having that, control of someone's at least short-term destiny is tough. But we had to do that. I mean, when Dad started the business, it was like Louis XIV, the sun god, and there was like 4 little people around him, and he did everything, and then would pat them on the back, said, "Man, you're great." But he was doing all the work, and then as the company got bigger and it was one person could no longer manage it, and we needed to have departments, and we realized that there were some employees that were just building fiefdoms. They just didn't have that inner security. There was no good communication. When there's no transparent communication in an organization, it's the beginning of the end. Politics are gonna develop. People are gonna start to be afraid for their jobs, and bad things are gonna happen. And so we, I think had to make some very, very difficult. And he made me do it too. Yeah, it makes you respectful of the process, and it makes you want to hire right, so you don't have to fire.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you did that. Any comments on this particular topic?
Yeah, I mean, one of the over the course of the 5 years that I've been there, I think there's maybe 3 people left in the office that were part of the original team. I mean, that was very, very similar to Ago's story. My father and his wife Judy really, I mean, they were the lifeblood of the company, and all roads led through Rome. So they did everything, and they brought a lot of people who really weren't competent at their jobs along with them, because they were good people or cared about them, or maybe they had something going on in their personal life. And back to connecting that to what I learned, not being, coming from different industries, it's that you got to cut people loose. They're going to be happier somewhere else because they've got some shame if they're not contributing where they are. But then the whole of the company, there's the first termination, there was just kind of this sigh of relief where it's like, okay, everybody knew that person had needed to go for a long time. And then there's just kind of been a string of kind of good to great, either find the right seat on the bus or get them off the bus. And that's been transformative in our family idea. And instead of just being about the Morgenstern family and our last name, I mean, we've really extended that culture out to be, we're an entire family of a company, and have we're bonded a lot more like that. And people who buy into the culture, they buy into the work ethic, they stick around, they do good. If they don't, we gently and quietly, lovingly show them the door.
Incidentally, how often do you have those meetings out in the plant where all the employees are standing around and you're up there and people are being singled out and attaboys and all that kind of stuff. How often do you do that?
We do 4 events a year. Judy, my father's wife, my stepmother, started our Christmas party, which I think is 20 years plus, where we bring in a set decorator and carve off about 10,000 square feet and do this big Christmas party. We give out gifts to everybody and call out people, attaboys. The other one that she started, I think this year was 26 years. Did you remember the shirt, babe, Anissa? I think 26 years, we take everybody's family out to a water park for a day, and so we get, this year we had 516 lives that came out. Now, those aren't employees. I mean, some of them are too young. We want to get them in, but they're like this big, so good, small hands are good on mattresses. And then what I've added to it, or my team's added to it, is now we bookend it with a spring and fall, and this fall we're doing a tailgate where we'll get everybody together and kind of give a state of the state. We do that at every one of these. What's going on in the company, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and most of it's good. And then we have a big barbecue where, you know, the leadership, the management team, I put on an apron, get out there and cook tri-tip, and then we'll do the same thing, our spring fling in the spring.
And Charlie, you have Christmas breakfasts, don't you?
Yeah, my grandma started doing it 50-something years ago, where we have a breakfast because we like to get the children involved with everything. So we don't have a Christmas party where everybody goes and gets drunk. We bring kids and we serve ice cream for breakfast. It's fun, and Santa Claus comes, and we sing Christmas carols, and my little kids just love going to the Christmas breakfast. So, yeah, I have fond memories of it from when I was a little kid too. And my grandma gives all the little kids. She used to give everybody $10. You get a stocking that had $10 in it, which that's a lot of money when you're a little kid. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. An innovation that you've done is you wanted to tackle financial illiteracy.
Yeah. Me and my wife, 2012, took a Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University course, and wanted to get our own finances in line, and through the process brought some of those same thoughts into the company. And as we were starting to run the company, becoming debt-free, we decided that a lot of our people, because we do private and public work, they could be getting paid anything from $15 an hour on one job to $85 an hour on the next job. And so their paychecks would fluctuate tremendously. And so we'd see young guys come in with an old clunker one day, and the next week they come in with a brand new car with a stereo and wheels on it. And by the next week, they couldn't afford the payment. And so we wanted to do something about that. And so a couple years ago, we started teaching Financial Peace University at our business. And the first year, I think we had maybe 12 families sign up, and learned a lot from it. And then we did it again earlier this year, and we had about 25 families sign up. And it was something that we live those principles. We run the business with those principles, and now we share those with all the team members, and it's made a lot of difference in a lot of their lives. Obviously, they can concentrate and be at work when they're at work and their mind is at work, but they also can just have a better life and show their kids what can be done. And we have people that are paying off cars and paying off houses that learn the way we did and wouldn't have been able to do it without the information. So we're just happy to do it.
Nice going. Really nice going. I didn't prep you on this one. Isn't it a personal challenge now that you've got such a responsibility and all eyes are on you to live a balanced lifestyle between home and work? Ago, you would like your wife to answer that? You're looking at her.
My wife's chuckling. Balance? What's balance?
How you doing?
You see it through your kids. I think the time is short, and you blink and they're growing up. So yeah, I want to be balanced. I don't succeed very much because I'm a worrier, and when you're a worrier in an international business, and you know that something is happening when you're trying to eat or sleep, it's very hard. And so I struggle with balance very much. I really didn't take a vacation until I don't know, for 15, 20 years until my kids were old enough to fly, and we'd like to take them overseas and expose them to other cultures, because I think that's something that's just lacking in general in the United States. Makes for tolerant, understanding, thoughtful people when you travel overseas. And we try to do that now, and I try not to look at my phone every 10 minutes. I respect the people that are able to leave their laptops at home, but I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't survive, and man's got to know his limitations, So, I'm trying to put balance in my life. It's a top of mind concern of mine, but I just am not able to do it yet to the level I'd like to. Yeah.
But you do exercise.
I do. I exercise. I do those things, but I do that usually. It comes at, it's on my very limited free time. So
Yeah, before dawn.
either very early or very late.
Yeah.
Right, because what happens is and this is like information you don't care about, but it's great. It's cathartic. I have a microphone, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, because I'll wake up. I have no problem going on 5 hours of sleep, but I'll wake up and I'll on my way to the treadmill. I have a gym in my house. I look at my phone, and then ding, 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 get 150 emails. That's it. It's over. I end up sitting in my home office, and it goes to hell. So I fail miserably at balance.
At one point, Ryan, before you were president of Canon Sleep Products, you were one of the patrol people up in the mountains.
And I'm actually still on the roster for Fresno Search and Rescue. I haven't been on a call out in a couple of years, but yeah, the finding balance is tough, and it doesn't seem to get any easier, because even as the business starts to get a little bit more under control, there's other opportunities that pop up. Charlie and I are both involved in YPO, which is a great outlet, helps us bring balance in, but there's also time commitment. There's a couple of young men that have asked me to mentor them. I don't know why. I guess I'm a little bit more than they do, so I'd spend a little bit of time with them, and I want to say yes, because mentors affected me deeply and positively when I was a kid. So, and then my beautiful wife, who's in the audience, needs a lot of time, but not because, I don't know where to go without. She deserves a lot of time. She takes care of me, and actually, when I look around balance in my life, her being a retired marine biologist, her full-time job is being a Ryan caretaker, I guess, and a home caretaker. So that gives us the opportunity that when we do have a weekend together or weekends out, it may not be a long amount of time, but it's concentrated. We're done. The home stresses are off. Thankfully, my business shuts down on Friday night and doesn't start up again until Monday. So Saturday, Sunday, we can focus on each other.
Yeah, nice.
Pardon my rambling.
I'm not very good at balance either, and I know my life is not balanced when my wife and children cry because I'm not there enough. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's happened a couple of times, and so I've been working hard at trying to maintain more balance in my life. I actually had an amazing example with our previous CEO, and also a hard example to live up to, because he would work from 4 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, 5-6 days a week, and I'm realizing that I just can't do that. I could never even try to do that much, but I'm going into work a little later now and making sure I exercise in the mornings, and trying to come home a little bit early, making sure I make it to all my kids' games and pick them up when I need to, or relieve my wife when she has something else that she needs to do, because my family is more important to me than my business. But the business helps support my family too, so I need to take care of both. It's kind of hard, and I do struggle emotionally with any one thing that I'm doing. I feel like I'm neglecting something else, so I have trouble just being present and appreciating wherever I am, and doing my best at work when I'm at work, and loving my family when I'm at home, and enjoying my friends when I'm with my friends, and enjoying the peace and quiet when I'm by myself, which happens for an hour or two a month probably.
Yeah. I'm impressed that your father, your brother, and you, and wives meet in your parents' and your dad's dining room, and this topic comes up regularly, that you very openly address being a good dad in addition to having time, and your dad talks about being a good grandparent and stuff in addition to running this company. it's an open topic in your family business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very open topic, and we all struggle with it. I mean, it's hard to run a business, especially a small business, without putting an incredible amount of energy into it. It's not going to be successful if you don't. But then how to balance that without neglecting my family is hard. So I think I'm in a lucky place where I do have a really strong management team where I don't have to be there all the time, and I'm learning to trust them more and kind of give up some of that control and some of the need to be there all the time. And it's more an expectation that I've put on myself, I think, that I need to be there if I'm running the company, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it's better than 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. But
Which is what he's got. You at work at 4 o'clock in the morning, aren't you?
Sometimes, yeah. My dad, I feel, he set a pretty high standard. He was always the first one there and the last one to leave. And so I don't really know any other way. But me and my wife have discussions about this all the time. And I'll come home and be all excited because I tell her something that we did. We got to send a family to the movies, or we got to, send a family to do something and let the guy have the day off and get his lawn mowed and get his car serviced, and so he could spend time with his family. And so as excited as I am about that, sometimes she asks me, what about your family? And so it's a tough balance to have a family business that you want to be very family friendly, and also know that you have your own family at home. I have 2 boys, and they're both very interested in what we do, and so it's fun to drive around town and talk about some of the things that we do. They come down to the shop sometime and play around and bend metal and do certain things, and so it's kind of fun to the more family events we have, the more we can do as a family together and bring my own family. I think balance, I don't think we're ever going to get there, but when I'm at work, I give it 100%, and then when we go play, I play 100% also.
Yeah, good. You guys willing to take some Q&A from the audience? Anybody got any questions? Please.
So, thank you very much for sharing the stories of your business culture and how it's woven into our business community, and the story of your care and concern for your employees and how that's woven into the community that we have here. Each of you comes from a culture where your grandparents or your fathers were the founders, and they were very philanthropic to the community with their time, their energy, and their resources. Do you see that as part of the strategy for you to carry on your companies?
Okay, question about philanthropic efforts going forward with your companies. Go ahead, Ago. You ready?
We definitely, for us, it's part of what we do. I think we have a culture that realizes that, we're lucky to live in the United States because my dad, my wife, and I are not born here, and I think we appreciate this country a lot more than sometimes than people who are born here who take it for granted. And so we believe in good schools, we believe in good hospitals, we believe in good support structures. So, personally, without getting into a lot of detail, we support the arts, we support some hospitals, we support Marjorie Mason is one of the things that we do support. And then as far as our belief that's something we also have made it available for our employees who want to volunteer with time paid to do that. They have those opportunities to do that. And I think that it's one of the things that's rewarding for us. At the end of the day, we always tell people, it's great to make a great income, it's great to be profitable, but you can only eat one steak at a time. You can only, after a certain point, there just isn't that return that you think you're going to get from having more things. And we think that having a better community is a good investment for us. Yeah.
Anybody else want to contribute on that point?
Yeah. So Grandpa first, and then Dad and Judy together, they've been philanthropic with meager earnings themselves. They really, their hearts have always been there, and it's been great for us. We make mattresses, right? People need mattresses. They call us up, we'll make a donation. We're able to help. But the heart's always been there. But this idea of, I mean, I don't know that we'll ever have a Shahadi Pavilion or anything like that out there, because the company didn't have the financial resources to do that. And as we look to the future, that's something we would like to be able to do, but we're kind of growing that direction. It's not a formal program. It's catch as catch can, and hey, the rescue mission needs 17 mattresses. Well, that's something that we can do. We don't have to give money to do that. We can build them and ship them.
Surprisingly, people don't want free hinges.
Really?
Yeah. No. Anybody in here want free hinges? I mean, nobody wants them. Okay, we got a few takers back there. It's not as cool as mattresses, unfortunately. Our family's been, kind of quietly philanthropic for years, and like to support a lot of different things in the community. But it's easy to write a check, right? So we write checks and help different organizations, but I personally don't spend a lot of my time helping other organizations, and have a little guilt about that. But really feel like our ability to help our community is by helping our employees. We've got a lot of blue-collar employees, and we've got 100 and something employees, and by taking good care of them and running a good business and teaching them to be better stewards of their own resources and take good care of their families, that we're able to have a really big impact on our community. But it'd be nice to give a little more time elsewhere, but I haven't made time to do that. I'm not sure my wife would appreciate that a whole lot if I didn't come home and together. We need to do it together. There you go.
We have been able to do some. My parents have been able to do some, whether it's donating, metal roof products to a church or something, volunteering at different things. But like Charlie, we pour a lot into our team. And recently we've got to be a part of some of the ROP programs at some of the high schools around the valley. And so we've partnered with the Fresno County Office of Education and trying to push the curriculums and help with the construction side of things, and then give some of these students and kids exposure to the construction industry, whether it be an intern in the office or physically working on the roof. Been able to put some of them to work and been able to help build the curriculums. And there's a new high school they're getting ready to start on that's going to be vocationally based, and we're able to work with some of the teachers and different things to help build those curriculums and really give the kids a leg up on, not just how to swing a hammer, but how to go through an interview process and what some of the work ethic that the marketplace is looking for. And so we're trying to give back, with the students and the teachers, and giving them our time and material the best we can so far.
Please.
The baton was passed to you, and I don't know how many of you have siblings involved. You were using this for other family members. I don't know how many of you are the eldest of your sibling or the youngest. How did your siblings react? Had other family members react to you being chosen or other members involved in the business?
The question is about siblings and how it is that you got the baton, and what was that dynamic between you and your siblings?
Mine is the easiest, so I'll go first. I think some of these guys may have more to say. I have one sister. She's an ER doctor, lives in Oregon. My dad is a supremely equitable man, and I have a wonderful relationship with my sister. We essentially, have structured such that she gets the remunerational part of the ownership without any ownership. We're very concerned about one of those things, and we're in ag, and we see a lot of those generational businesses and how everybody thinks that ownership and management is the same thing, and I think that everybody thinks that their kid is great, and a lot of these kids that we talk to on the phone we know are not great, they're just lucky. And I think we see that a lot of third and fourth generation farming operations are going to have serious problems when those kids are running the show. And so we did not want that to happen to our business, and so we have made it very clear that my dad and I own the business, and when my dad, it's structured in such a way that I will be the sole owner of the business, and that was an important thing for us because we didn't want family messes to impact the functionality of the business. And I was lucky because I have a sister and she's not interested in selling nuts, so it works out.
I've got the exact opposite. I'll skip you unless you want to go. So my brother also works in our business, and he's very competent. He does a great job, but he's only been in our business for a couple of years. And when I took over, he'd been with us for only a year, and he'd never managed anybody before when he came to our business. So I'd been managing people for 15 years and been with our business for almost 10 years. And he wasn't anywhere near ready to take over running our organization. So he was happy to have me take over. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. He's very happy where he is. He loves being part of our management team, and he's very supportive of me. And so we've got a really great dynamic, and we've structured our compensation in a way that kind of handles that too. And some of it's been advice from that guy right there about how to do that. And so we each get paid for the jobs that we do, and then any ownership distributions are done equally.
Anybody who's ever seen the Facebook status, it's complicated. I am the eldest, and I have two younger brothers, and it's really complicated and not appropriate for a forum like this. But they're not currently working in the business, and they both have from time to time over the years.
I am the youngest. I have one older brother, and I think we were a little bit fortunate because he's always been more of a hands-on guy, and so he enjoys being out in the field running projects and physically working on projects. And my knack was more in the office and managing people, and so it was kind of a natural progression for me to be able to take over the day-to-day business and him still be a part of running the actual projects out in the field. And so it's gone pretty well.
But a major decision was made by your brother.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Earlier this year, my brother decided that him and his family would like to move out of the state of California in 2018. And so that's changed the dynamic a little bit, and we've had to meet with Neil and meet with some other people and figure out how that looks and what's fair and equitable for both families going forward. We're right in the middle of it right now, and it is a little complicated. But our goal at the end of the day is we want to be able to have Thanksgiving dinner together, and that means more than the business and the ownership. And so we make every decision based on still being able to be a family.
Yeah, and Graydon sitting over there in the second row. I really respect the decision you've made. I've told you that personally, but I'd like to say it. Down deep, you just love being a rancher. Whenever I talk to you about your kids in 4-H and the animals they raised and the awards they've won and all that, you just lit up, and you're pursuing your dream of that. And I'll tell you what, that's how your dad, he pursued his dream, and now you're doing it. Way to go, man. You bet. Well, you know what? You ought to have a chance to come on down and shake these young men's hands and chat with them a little bit. And we've got about 10 minutes left, so feel free to come on down. They clearly are exceptional, to be sure, as you clearly were able to see.
Yes, thank you very much. A round of applause for our panel and for Noel Koenig.